Good morning, everyone. Today, I'm pleased to welcome a distinguished member of our Law Center community to our series. We're joined by Sheryll Cashin, Carmack Waterhouse Professor of Law, Civil Rights, and Social Justice. And Sheryll, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. Sheryll, throughout your distinguished career, you've been a scholar and an advocate for integration in our nation's schools and our residential areas. And now you're working on a new book that explores residential segregation and how this has shaped persistent racial inequality. Can you share more about this project? What do you think understanding that history and the dynamics of residential segregation, why is this so important in this moment?
Yes, so thank you for asking. I have this new book will come out in September of 2021. And it's about residential caste and what each time this country seemed to have put to bed an institution that subordinated Black people, it's created another one. And like from slavery to Jim Crow to mass incarceration to iconic Black ghettos, the hood, I call it. And what I'm arguing is, and showing through history, is that wherever the great migrants landed in this country and where they stayed, in the South, through intentional federal policy, we constructed concentrated Black poverty and we constructed affluent white space. And the good news is that we had a system of caste pre-civil rights that subordinated Black people based on race, and a lot of people are no longer subordinated in that way. But people trapped in high poverty neighborhoods are in a caste-like system. They're like, they are at the bottom of the social hierarchy in this country, and everybody who lives elsewhere others them. And what we do is, and government invests in and reifies this residential order. There are a couple of things that happen as a result. We overinvest in white space and disinvest in Black space. We prey and contain people in Black space. We surveil people with Black skin because of the ideas about Blackness that we get from the hood. We also have the social distinctions that come naturally to people become much more efficient when you have stark boundaries. And yet this system doesn't work for most people. It's only the people who are able to buy their way into high opportunity space that truly live the American dream, and everybody else gets a different deal. And we're entering 5 decades of dog whistling, a lot of it anti-Black dog whistling, which you've seen in the recent election. And that rhetoric has been used to justify anti-tax fanaticism and shrinking of government and shredding the safety net and plutocratic tax relief, right? And so the residential caste system we have is at the bottom of what are broken race relations and the breaking of the social contract. So I've spent my whole academic career at Georgetown dealing with these issues, and this is sort of like the culmination of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, you're the author of several books, and one in 2017 entitled Loving: Interracial Intimacy in America and the Threat to White Supremacy traces the history of interracial marriage and love in the United States and examines how these factors shape the construction of race in our nation. What were some of your major insights from examining that history as a legal scholar? What historical context do you think is important for people to understand as we discuss racial inequality and racial healing today?
Right. So that was a happier book. It was an exploration of white supremacy through the lens of the people who wanted to cross boundaries for love or sex, fooling around, right? And what I didn't know when I started this journey, it was a book written called Loving, written anticipating the 50th anniversary of the Loving versus Virginia decision. I did not realize before I delved into this 400-year history that whiteness was constructed from the outset to separate dangerous white people who might ally with people of color, particularly Black people, right? It had a political function, and to this day it does, to unify elite whites with poorer whites, to make sure that poorer and working class whites would not ally with other people to demand much of elites. What's fascinating and hopeful for me is that interracial intimacy in friendship, in love, in adoption, in dating, in politics, is growing apace. You know, it's accelerating, and that is actually helping people who have a friend of a different race, or develop a virtual a love relationship with a character or a president, a Black president. It humanizes people who are different. And there's all this social science research that shows that if you have an intimate relationship with somebody of a different race, you're more likely to be upset if you see people of a different race being treated differently, and more likely to engage in politics or to fight racism, right? So I ended the book on a happier, an optimistic note, that's saying, you know, the class of what I call culturally dexterous whites, people who are open to difference, see it, like it, maybe even love it, and want an America that's inclusive, that group is accelerating, right? And political scientists call them the coalition between culturally dexterous whites and people of color. They call it the Ascendant Coalition. We're seeing them break through. They broke through in California, in Nevada, in Arizona, in Georgia, and you know, this is what makes me hopeful about this country, if you take the long view.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, you served in the Clinton administration as an advisor on urban and economic policy. What priorities or policies would you be looking for at the national level that could most positively impact community development and address segregation?
So a Biden administration, even in divided government, could do a lot. First, I think President Biden should use executive power to reverse all of the things that the Trump administration did to undermine or rescind civil rights and human rights protections. And they did a lot, you know, so he should just reverse that and use executive power and agency power to aggressively enforce all of the civil and human rights protections that are on the books, to particularly promote rather than discourage residential and school integration. Integration works for people when it is achieved, right? Now, if Democrats happen to win, I think they have to win at least one of those 2 seats in Georgia. If Democrats gain control of the Senate and you have unified government, there's a lot more that can be done. Immediately through the pandemic, I can't remember the word for it, but the bills that are designed to help local governments and help give relief to people during this pandemic. I think there should be a direct priority put on the communities that were most ravaged by COVID. And a lot of those are Black communities, but you know, and you know, they snuck through some very cynical tax cuts in the last relief bill. If you just repeal that, you could pay for some direct relief. But one thing that the pandemic showed was that our separate and equal landscape created the context for COVID to do a lot of harm in vulnerable communities. So I think those communities really need some relief, and equity flattens the curve. So that's what the federal government can do. But there's a lot of things that local communities can do as innovators. And I'm very excited, by the way, about the Racial Justice Institute, right? And my new colleague, Robin Leonard, and you know, she's really into local innovation, and I'm really excited about the role of Georgetown in being a community partner here to think about the innovative things you can do to promote racial justice. And I forgot to mention, among the other things, strong standards that Joe Biden should put in place, obviously, is some strong national standards about police reform and returning the federal government to a strong role in investigating patterns and practices of civil rights violations by police departments.
Thank you. Thank you, Neil. During this election cycle, there's been a lot of discussion about voter suppression, the importance of the Black vote, and the power of Black political organizing in the South in particular. In your memoir, The Agitator's Daughter, you share some extraordinary stories about your father's political work in Alabama, where he founded the National Democratic Party of Alabama and ran for governor in 1970. What sorts of reflections do you have upon watching all this unfold this November? Are there any lessons or reflections from your memoir that you'd want to share?
Thank you for bringing up my father, who I miss terribly, and my memoir, The Agitator's Daughter. My father ran for governor against George Wallace in 1970. He would probably say he got 14% of the vote. But I grew up in Alabama licking NDPA envelopes, and felt like we went to every county in the Black Belt of Alabama. That those are the counties with the dark agriculturally rich soil where the plantation economy reigned 100 years before. And not surprisingly, former plantation economies resulted in a lot of Black people. You had these counties with 75% Black counties, all white elected officials, a party still, the party of George Wallace. And so, you know, one thing that I reflect on, you know, my dad and my mom were right in there. They went from civil rights and sit-ins. My mother got me arrested. My mother went to a sit-in with me as a 4-month-old baby and got me arrested and took me to jail as part of the effort, right? So they went from sitting down to wherever they wanted to eat, to trying to desegregate the schools, and me and my brothers desegregated schools, to trying to desegregate politics. And what I remember about particularly the year 1968, you know, all that law and ordering, all that nasty, you know, the people who would call and harass my parents on the phone. Well, I was on a Zoom call last night and got Zoom bombed, and, you know, nasty racial slurs, the same stuff my parents had to deal with. And one thing it's just mind-boggling to me that the law and order rhetoric of George Wallace and Richard Nixon was reprised by Donald Trump in this election, and that stuff works, you know, to a great degree. And it was a substitute then, and it's a substitute now for actually trying to woo people with policies. The good news is that 75 million people rejected that kind of politics. And we have, as I said before, the majority of people in this country believe in our founding values and want something better than a society that's premised on us, them, and division. They reject race baiting. And I've never seen a presidential candidate more honest about race and racial systems than I saw Joe Biden this year, right? So the dog whistling politics that is now a non-starter in Democratic Party politics. So I think we've reached a tipping point. I'm hoping an inflection point where this kind of divisive ways of trying to win elections that we're seeing the last gasp of it, I hope.
Thank you. Now, we're celebrating the 150th anniversary of our law center, and you've been a part of our Georgetown community since 1996. And in that time, you've taught courses on race in the law, the Constitution, local government law, urban development, and many more. Do you have a favorite course or seminar from over the years, or a topic you particularly enjoy exploring with our law students?
Well, I've taught a small seminar a number of times. The most recent iteration of it is about segregation and opportunity, or the lack thereof. And I love teaching small seminars. This last semester it was 15 people. I've agreed to take it up to 20. I'm taking it for the team, Jack. They wanted more students here, but I'm a writer. I love writing, and it is so rewarding to work with a young person and help them go from, they pick their topics, go from picking a topic, doing an outline, doing research, and producing a publishable quality paper. And that's what I insist on. And so many of my students are out in the world now, and they are optimistic about this country. They are taking their time and treasure in their law school loans to try to help other people. And it's just very intimate. I really get to know them. I learn from them. I'm inspired by them. And it is the best thing that I do as a teacher. So that's my favorite.
Thank you. Thank you. And as we close, is there a message you'd like to share with everyone?
Well, I've been at Georgetown for more than 2 decades now, and I just got to say, I love being at Georgetown. You know, you see my background, right?
I do.
I miss coming into the building. I miss my colleagues. I love being at a place that takes social and racial justice seriously. It's not a side issue. I'm respected for what I do. I don't have to, after George Floyd's killing, there were all these places that were agonizing about their own systems. Georgetown, my place didn't have to do that. We are diverse. We have multiple voices. I like being here. So thank you very much, Jack.
Oh, Sheryll, thank you. And I'm so grateful that we've had this chance to have this conversation with you today and to listen to your insights on these urgent topics. So thank you for taking the time to be a part of this conversation. And I look forward to being with all of you again soon. Take care of yourselves and take care of everyone around you, for every Hoya, everywhere.